Welcome back, everybody, to Hearthstone Global Games 2019. And we're getting towards the end of Group E now. France continuing their great year, and now it's going to be the UK or Sweden staying alive, basically, Derek. One of them's going to vanish.
Yeah, the player who wins this, the team who wins this series will be going on to face Spain in our next decider match to find out who will be joining France going out of Group E to join us in a couple weeks' time for the remainder of the tournament. And like Falk was saying, I'm very excited for this match. The UK, obviously, is the team that I'm supporting first and foremost in the Hearthstone Global Games. I am a degenerate, and Ball Control is my favourite streamer, as well as, of course, a three-head Brit. But Sweden as well is a team that I think we're both very, very fond of in terms of the players.
Yeah, extremely much so for me, and that's a great phrase to use. We won't concentrate too much on the Orange thing today. We did a bit yesterday, but obviously, yet again, Orange is a teammate. He seems to play teammates or relevant people all the time, and he will be fighting for survival in another tournament. And so far, he's come up short all year, but only by tiny amounts over and over again. It must be so frustrating for him.
He's also had just honestly a pretty good year, though. Like we were saying with the Battle Rift tournament that he was playing in, one of the few third-party tournaments this year, where he picked up a second place, I believe, after losing to Euristus. And it says a lot about these players that I almost just said, oh, we've got a slight graphical error there with both players being ball control there in the picture. Nope, they just look exactly the same.
Brilliant. All right, so we have everybody's favourite matchup to open up with. It's the Shaman Mirror. And I know this has been mentioned a lot, Derek, but yeah, you have played this matchup rather a lot in your High Legend season last season.
Yeah. When I was, way back when I was a pro player last month, the top of Legend was just all Shaman Mirrors all day long, along with like one or two people playing Control Warrior who were absolute scum. But the people playing honourable Shaman Mirrors. You're what?
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not more N'Zoth people in the top 100, actually, because it is a pretty good matchup. I know that the Shaman players will say it's not that good, but it is a pretty good matchup for the Warrior.
It is good. It's very good for the Warrior. Like, if people could submit themselves to playing more Warrior, I think there would be more Warrior on ladder. It's a good deck to play right now. It's just impossible to jam it on ladder because it takes 10 hours if you hit a mirror.
Yeah, and you will hit the mirror occasionally. Obviously, Theo lurking in wait for the unwary at all times.
Yeah, exactly. Him and Fury Hunter. But in this particular matchup, it can be very, very explosive, as we both well know. The player who is on the coin, I think, is generally considered slightly in the lead because of the power of Spirit of the Frog for the most part, but also just because it allows you to do your powerful things just that one turn earlier.
And these hands, they always look so grim to me, and then suddenly they're not grim anymore. Obviously, neither player hero powering because they're scared of the other player having a Mogu. That's quite important. I think you made a tweet along those lines yesterday.
I did. I liked that one.
It was a good one. Go check out Derek's Twitter for more details. Spirit of the Frog here, not really doing a whole lot. It can be zapped.
Yeah,
take a 2 in 3 chance of getting evolved.
Right, let's take a look at the list, because that changes things quite drastically. If he's playing Lightning Bolt, which some players are, then it becomes a lot worse, but they are not. The only 1-cost spells in the deck are Voltaic Burst and Evolve. So like you said, 2 out of 3 chance to hit the Evolve on the following turn, which means, you know what, probably worth it, I'd say. Just get the frog down. Like, that's a nutty powerful swing.
It does also feel, though, like, are you sure, absolutely, when Boar's done nothing either, that you want to do that? Against anything else, against, like, in a vacuum, you're just playing your deck. That's definitely the play you make. But putting up 4 drops is very powerful, obviously. But it does allow Boar to go Mogu crazy. So, yeah, they're waiting one more turn before making the decision. They don't have to decide right now, obviously.
Yeah, it definitely does allow ball control to go a little bit crazy with Mogus if he has them. But I would argue the difference maker in that decision is the Sea Giant in Orange's hand, because a lot of the time, if your opponent explodes with a big turn with Evolves and Mogus and all that nonsense, the only way back into the game is 0-mana Sea Giants. Orange now has that, so I think this is a perfectly fine play, because if we look at the way this shakes out, even if he misses the Evolve, he can still just go Zap, Voltaic Burst plus the Soul of the Murloc, which is fine. It's not good, but as a backup play, it's good enough.
Yeah, this deck is one of those decks that you trust to the top of your deck. There's so many good draws that you might as well just get going and trust your deck to provide the rest.
And he does also have a Lightning Storm in his deck, does orange, so if he was to go for the Zap Voltaic Burst plus Soul of the Murloc play, that would draw him the Lightning Storm, which is an incredibly powerful card matchup.
So the UK keeping the number of minions to 2, which keeps Mogu's cost at 5. Orange has 4, so can't play it. Pointing that out, even though it's sort of obvious when you've watched a lot of these, it's something that is so instinctive that can just get overlooked as a proper play, and he gets it.
There we go.
And now the game begins.
Huh. Is it ever worth not doing it on this turn to kill off the Thunderhead?
You've got to then know your average 4 drops, which obviously they will because they've played this a million times.
Yeah.
Thunderhead is super, super dangerous.
It's probably still just hair. Is it though? Like, okay, so
I think you kill it.
On this turn, if we were to see Voltaic Burst plus Soul of the Murloc, it draws a Lightning Storm heading into a 3-mana turn when you factor in the 2 overload. So you can just go Voltaic Burst this turn, Storm on 3, and then follow up with Hair Evolve on 6. I think that was a lot closer than it looked.
Makes sense. I think what happened here is they ran out of time, so made the initial play.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen other teams go, well, which is best? Have the discussion we just had, and then do neither because they ran out of time and make a right mess of things. I imagine the conversation...
Oh my god, I'm sorry to cut you off then, Neil.
No, you're right. It's a good scream.
What? That was completely illegal. They went
that was
for
obviously the correct play. Wow.
Absolute and utter boar disaster right there.
Yeah. All the best votes on all of Twitch.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that
Boar's face here has never been more accurate.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's thinking right now.
Yeah. He just got absolutely clapped.
And Orange as well, actually.
Look at this.
Smug.
It sticks around. The Archmage sticks around, so we can just go Soul of the Murloc next turn for 2 activations.
Oh, and then Bloodlust in hand. Like, how do you ever come back from that?
Insane.
The Bloodlust will just win the turn after. Yeah, that was truly disgusting. It's an overused word, but it's definitely appropriate here.
Oh my god, even better than that, you can just play the Sea Giant. Like, look at this.
I think I prefer the Murloc. Because you've got Bloodlust.
No. I way prefer the bursting. Because you can go burst Sea Giant, trade in your 1/1, and then it will... Oh no, wait. Oh no, yeah, you're right. It will overload you twice, right? So you won't be able to play the Bloodlust.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't factor that in.
No, it's a closer call than I thought, to be fair. But just the fact you're guaranteed to get the Bloodlust on a full board. You just got to make sure you do enough damage this turn to make sure the Bloodlust wins, and you can easily do that.
Oh, but it's Sea Giant, man. Like, Sea Giant is absurd.
Yeah, that's what they're thinking. They're flashing it to show us.
I think I prefer the Sea Giant line. It's just too strong. Like, Bloodlust might not be lethal on the following turn. And this is just so much more powerful.
They agree with you. That always
I agree, it was incredibly close there, though. Like, this game has just been filled with very, very close decisions. Especially for Team Sweep.
And actually, this is a point I make about Shaman quite a lot, is that it's incredibly hard to play correctly. It just doesn't matter very often. Like,
yeah, I mean,
you found a superior play here, but I suspect my line also wins, and so I don't get punished for my slight mistake.
Yeah. I mean, again, speaking of slight mistake, that was 3 damage that was missed there by Orange with the Rumble Tusk Breaker, whatever it's called, which is annoying but probably inconsequential.
And again, another point about the deck. If this deck was more punishing, but it could be an amazingly skillful, exciting deck to watch.
Yeah.
Because the intricacies are actually huge. And you certainly do get punished. Like when I started running this deck, some of the losses I had was so embarrassing. Like the second you make the play, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm overloaded by one too many. What an idiot! And then you just lose.
It's it's one of the decks I really like. It feels kind of like Rogue, where you have to plan out your turns so ruthlessly and efficiently.
Yeah.
And you can usually account for everything, because while there is randomness in the Evolve, it's usually the kind of randomness that doesn't matter that much, because it's just a big pile of stats which usually wins the game anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And you just got to choose your moments. Especially if you have Mutate in hand, you can just go for more aggressive evolves, etc. But
right, exactly.
It's a little bit like Rizaka's Priest. That deck was also incredibly skillful and also didn't punish you at all for your mistakes, so it didn't matter. or as well in that case. But 1-0 very quickly there for Sweden. But I think we've all agreed that in this format, winning with your Shaman isn't necessarily the huge lead it feels like in a normal best of 5.
Yeah, it feels like pretty much a given for the most part, I will agree. Especially as I would say United Kingdom with Boar and Deaddraw have a couple of good matchups left for their own Shaman in the form of the Priest and the Hunter. I think I would put both of those at slightly favoured for the Shaman, if not oppressively so in either one. It looks to me like the real scary matchup left over for the United Kingdom will be that Druid, actually. I think that could really struggle up against the Priest, obviously, in particular, where it just doesn't do anything in the first 5 turns, so it just dies. But also, I would argue against the Hunter, the pressure is often a bit too much, and the minions a bit too beefy.
And we've said that a lot during this group, and it might have people thinking, oh, why are people bringing Druid? They're wrong, blah, blah, blah. When we get to Group C later on, which is a group of Death Rattle,
yeah,
we will see a very different situation where Druid turns out to be just the best deck, most likely, because everybody's playing N'Zoth in that group. So if you're wondering why these idiots bringing their Druids, yeah, there is a lot of N'Zoth in this tournament. It's just not in this group.
Mm-hmm. And so I believe that was a quest innovate on turn 1 there for Deaddraw. I didn't quite catch that, and there's no
it has to be
bar
from
on the left.
hand,
But
I think.
Yeah. Which is a great start, obviously, for Deaddraw, especially with a couple of Wraths in hand, which, outside of War Druid Loti, I suppose, are probably 2 of the best cards in the matchup. This is not actually looking that good for Boston yet.
Yet, indeed.
Yet.
Certainly,
oh, wow.
The idea is to have something down and start hitting the Druid by now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's turn 2 with Priest after all. You should be doing 16 on this turn. And a whole lot of nothing going on here. This Druid deck, by the way, we're not going to see the ins and outs of it here against the Priest, but it's really interesting build. They're playing Nomi and Overflow and Pyromancer, which is not completely off the wall, but it was interesting to me to include Nomi, which at first glance enhances your warrior matchups in a matchup that you win anyway.
Yes. Yeah, I think most people came to the conclusion that if you're going for a strong anti-warrior build, you either play Malagos or you just stick a single Baleful Banker in there. Generally, I think it's considered that one Baleful Banker is enough to just absolutely decimate warrior outside of Hakar a lot of the time.
So it has me wondering if the Overflow Nomi is actually not for the warrior match and they're assuming they win that anyway, even though it looks like it's for the warrior match. And actually maybe it's a good mechanism against some of the more mid-rangey decks like the Mirror, where you just put a load of Nomis down really quickly.
Yeah, I feel like against the Mirror, like, Druid does not answer Nomi at all. It's only Zephrys is their answer.
And it's not complicated. You don't have to mess up a combo like the combo version of Druid for the Mirror, which does work well. You just plop a Nomi out there and win the game next turn.
That's right.
And if it doesn't, you win the game the turn after by playing another Nomi because you've got 100 of them because of the silly combo effects with Elise. I think we should shout out Deaddraw a little more as well. There's a big case for saying that he is one of the most successful players the entire year.
Agreed. A very strong case.
2 Masters Tour top 8s, and came within 1 match of being a Grandmaster himself. And I feel he's perfect for a teammate for Boar as well. He's very hard-working and very analytical. Doesn't stop playtesting, so I think that's very good for Boar, who is also very analytical-minded.
Exactly, they complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. Dead Draw is hard-working, smart, and dedicated, and Boar is
That's his weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant.
Boar is Boar.
Yeah, and Sweden here realising they're running out of time, despite the fact their hand isn't helping them. If you don't start getting damage into this Druid, this can go wrong, and it's not a game that's supposed to go wrong. By the way, it was a quest captain. I love it.
Yeah, and it's working out great for Dead Draw here, because he made the very, very conscious decision of not wrathing the next set on 2. Which at first glance I was thinking, are you mad? Why would you not just take a nice easy wrath there to carry on completing your quest and kill off a minion? But what it denied was exactly Coin Psychopomp, which would actually have been pretty dreadful for Dead Draw if that had come down.
Yeah, and I do wonder, and these players are good enough, with the slow start the Priest have, they probably worked that out. It's not just, oh, maybe they've got the Psychopomp. It's like, okay, well, they haven't got their key stuff, so Psychopomp's usually the card that ends up in their hand when you're in that situation.
I think it was a very, very smart decision by Dead Draw to not Wrath on 2. It could be a game-winning decision in its own right.
But if this MC Tech doesn't get played, I'm going to start criticising its inclusion in the deck, because it will be the second one that I've seen not played into a 4 minion board in this tournament.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see the MCT on this board. Like, Loti is a little bit too valuable, I think, to just be played out here. He does have a Floop in hand, so Loti is a little bit more expendable because you essentially have a second one to come down.
Even then, though, you're forced to play it, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I want to see it not be played quite yet, and instead just slam the MCT and maybe Wrath, depending on the outcome.
It's definitely showing, though, that this MCT is expendable. Like, if it's not good here, and it wasn't good against Shaman yesterday, when is it good? Wrath just doesn't really work, does it? They keep hovering over it, but it's not really doing what they want it to here. They need cards. Their hand is really a whole bunch of not much. The double Loti coming up soon will help that a lot, of course.
Even just a second MCT, if it was to be played in the next couple terms, could be very powerful. But like you said, double Loti, probably that little bit better.
And this is the point where the Druid is supposed to sort of get going, but neither side can get going. And with that in mind, the Priest should still be favoured because it's got actual card draw, and the Druid hasn't drawn its card draw.
Mm-hmm.
Here come the cards.
Yeah, Bosden drawing through his deck while simultaneously trying to sweep the opponent's board out of play. But I'm thinking of Dead Draw here. Yeah, it's a big deal. But honestly, I'm not hating Dead Draw's spot here at all. If he can find himself a Nourish or that single copy of Overflow, he's looking to be in a good spot.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely not where you want to be as the Priest, but with all this card draw, they've still got a chance. But almost every card does something great here. There's the Overflow of which you spake.
So a few options here. Of course, the initial one I'm looking at is Crystal Merchant Pounce Loti. Draws a card, makes the Floop a Loti, allows for Overflow next turn.
Yeah, they need cards, so this is the part that you definitely have to do, and you probably have to Loti.
I agree.
Because you might be dead. Yeah, you just might be dead to Circle, Double Divine. Why take the chance?
Yeah, you might be dead, and also I think the main thing is just it's good. Like, it's just good here, because it leaves a 4/4 in play, which is difficult to deal with.
Yeah, it's pretty rare that Loti doesn't just die the turn you play it. I was highlighting that yesterday. It tends to scale with the board state in terms of you either play it as the 1/2 and it kills something small, or it scales to this side and you kill their 5/5 or sorry their 6/6 whatever.
Yeah.
But it's there and really hard to deal with.
Oh, and Boston, the pressure is on him now to be able to try and swing this back. Sweden have to develop some kind of a big threat whilst dealing with the Loki, or go super wide and hope there's no Starfall. Draw a whole bunch of cards to go for an OTK combo. That is a good way to get started with that.
A turn where Orange probably has to keep quiet and trust Boston to get it right. Because if you start discussing this turn, you're just gonna talk in riddles to each other and mess it up.
You may be right.
I think you just let the person who's in the driver's seat go, and if they play it slightly suboptimally, so be it. Because I get the impression now they've been discussing, and you're going to draw cards quite often here. And unless Orange is shouting, "Stop! Don't draw cards. Make 7 health minions." You want to make the decision not to draw cards very quickly.
This was a difficult play for Amit. This was the decision had to be either: do you go for Amit Divine Spirit now, or do you wait a turn and go Amit Coin Psychopomp to have a wider board with lower health, so it's less vulnerable to Loti but more vulnerable to Starfall? In the end, Boston makes the play that's more vulnerable to a Floop Loti, because, to be honest, it's pretty unlikely that it's in hand. I think this is a good play. It's just not
and they've made the 114 as a backup plan just in case, which is quite important. You still have outs next turn. Yeah.
The real nightmare thing for Boston. Sorry, I was just going to say the real nightmare thing for Boston though is he doesn't even necessarily have the ability to clear off this Loti.
Always remember, kids, this is a 3/2 minion that can occupy the board and do 3 important damage next turn.
That's right. I like it a lot.
They face off well against 110s in some regards, when they've got their team around them.
So, Psychopomp to res Pyromancer, and then you go Cleric Heal and hit a 0 mana spell. Even that doesn't do it. It's not looking great.
Well, you're not dying anytime soon, so you could play Once Army just to thin your deck and go for that circle draw.
Yeah, okay.
Not because it's great, but because you're in such a mess that just fighting for this board, you're going to lose to Oasis cards in general. I think drawing one... Now you've got the second Cleric, it's not so bad, but drawing 1 card would just be a bit sad.
Sure.
Oh, this hand has got crazy here.
It's really just about making sure you don't mess up, I think, at this point for dead draw. So maybe start with Worthy Expedition, because if you hit Starfall or Loti or Oasis Surger, you're in such a good spot.
Yeah,
just look at that.
We're looking for.
With spell damage.
Yeah, because it's not broken enough otherwise. Yeah. Deals with the issue at hand nicely. There's no point being cute. You know your opponent's got 1/1s coming up next turn. I think they're going to try and defend it.
Yeah, I was going to say it could be overflow this turn and then just double trade into the one Samdi with your remaining minions.
I think so.
Whatever. Yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
Because you know they've got 4 1-drops in their hand.
And with Oasis Surger, Innovate Oasis Surger, 10 mana for 2020 worth of stats. I think I'm liking Dead Draw's Dead Draw's chances here.
Yeah, just a little bit. And from nowhere as well. Like, if you're going to beat Priest, it didn't look like the hand you were going to beat Priest with. But they just didn't draw their stuff at all, did Sweden. And this is a big deal. We're talking about if the Druid can get the win. What a great spot it puts them in. And they're starting to look like they're going to get that win. Even though it'll be 1-1, having won with your your scary deck, and Sweden have won with their obvious deck.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've got to draw some cards somehow, but it's just not even possible. I mean, yeah. Not drawing Circle of Healing is such a big disaster.
It really is. It was just every bad card at the start of the game coming together for Boston. And again, it comes right back to the start, though, with Deaddraw not going for the Wrath on turn 3. It may seem inconsequential, or the later decisions were more impactful, but I would argue that was the single most important decision for the game, in the game for him, because it just meant that he wasn't flooded a turn earlier with Psychopombs, which could have been the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah, it's made a huge difference.
It may seem inconsequential, but that was the correct decision to not target the Acolyte of Pain, because if he had targeted the Acolyte of Pain, it would have drawn 2 cards instead of 1.
No, I was looking at it and thinking, what? But the spell damage makes all the difference there.
Yep. It's just correct to do it that way. Unless you want to fatigue them, which I think is nonsense.
It's a really weird interaction the way it just hangs around.
Very weird interaction.
Okay, well, here's the circle, but it... Yeah, it's too late. You can't clear this board.
You must consider.
10. They're facing down 17 on board. Druid doesn't really have much to add if it's not Malygos, so I guess you draw as many cards as you can this turn and just hope something comes of it.
Is someone injured?
Make a 4-17 and hope something sticks.
Life is an afterthought.
And the board's just going to get cleaned up again. So you always start with Kun if you're in a hurry, which, you know, you are. It's almost never wrong.
Hello?
Hello?
Apologies there, I think I just dropped out for a second.
That's okay. Sounds like my entire life.
Has anything changed? Does Boston have a chance at this point, or is it still looking just as good?
No, it's looking really grim.
Mm-hmm.
Drawing the Kun really helped Deaddraw because it just gave him a nice, easy turn.
Yeah.
Not even from a is it good perspective, just from a practical, oh look, I don't have to worry about getting damage on the board. I can kill all my opponent's things without having to think about it very hard, and then next turn kill them.
Yeah. Oh look, I just win. And this is a huge deal for the United Kingdom here, because I was saying just before we went into this match that their Druid, to me at least, looked like the weak link in their lineup. It could be hard targeted by Boston's remaining 2 decks in the Priest primarily, and to a somewhat lesser extent the Hunter. But if Deaddraw can take what looks like a very expected win here, I think the United Kingdom are in a pretty good spot to take the whole thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I said while you weren't online.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. It makes me feel really good that I got something right. Yeah, it's looking for all the world like the UK in a great position just because of what has won. Sweden have got that Hunter deck, which is kind of the wild card in the whole tournament for me.
I can see that.
It's an incredibly strange deck. It's kind of 45% against everything it's not targeting, but 45% can still win. That's why it's not 0%. Maths with Lorinda.
So I think we're looking pretty clearly here at a just Divine Spirit in a fire. I don't know. I'm not really seeing it. Oh no, it's
yeah. I think they're trying to work out a clear here, but
honorable Sudoku here.
Yeah. Something I've enjoyed about top level play over the last few months in particular is this kind of attitude, actually. Like, yeah, we've lost. Let's make it slightly entertaining.
Yes. Sure. Let's go with that. And that is an equalization, 1 game apiece, with Dead Draw taking a very convincing win with a very well played game of Hearthstone. They're a very Dead Draw style of win as well, just not playing out in the usual way, a little bit different to the expected route to victory. And it worked out fantastically for him. Well played.
Yeah, and that's what playing a lot of Hearthstone does for you. It allows you to make those decisions in 75 seconds because you've seen the situation, you've thought about the situation, and you don't necessarily have to make the decision on the fly. And when you've got, I mean, ball control, yeah, we're mean to him quite often, but he also plays an awful lot of Hearthstone. So between the two of them, they've probably got as many reps as nearly anybody.
Yeah, he does. Boar is every day streaming for hours on end. He's like very few players have the ability to do that, and it shows in his play. All the decks that he does jam, he knows a tremendous about inside and out.
And he's not scared either. He will go to HS Replay and say whatever silly deck of the day is #1 on HS Replay. And he'll say, okay, well, I don't believe this is a deck, but I'm going to play it for a few games to see if I'm right. Going to queue up game #3 in a moment, but first we just go for a short break, and then we'll get back to this. Group E continues here at Hearthstone Global Games with the UK and Sweden looking for the right to play Spain in the deciding match. And it's finally balanced at 1-1, but I think we both agree that UK have a very slight advantage here.
Yeah, it's looking good for them, I would say, heading into the remainder of these matches. As we can see, Priest and Shaman as their two remaining decks. And even if we completely ignored what Sweden have, I suppose it's actually that way with the camera, Sweden have on their side of the board, it's just looking great with Shaman and Priest knocking about for the United Kingdom. In my opinion, the two strongest classes at the moment, with Aggro Shaman or Quest Shaman both being very powerful, and Combo Priest being incredibly powerful as well. And for Sweden, that Hunter might be able to sneak in the win against the Priest. It may be able to sneak in the win against the Shaman, but I think it's looking a little bit weaker.
Yeah, the Hunter is just a wild card here. We're going to get to see it. I quite like watching this deck. I don't so much like facing it because it's quite hard to play against. But it's going to have to do well here against the Shaman. It's pretty good against the Priest in some regards, in that it can... It's got Freezing Trap, it's got Deadly Shot, so the Priest has to at least mess around. But against Shaman, it hasn't got so much wide board clear. It has to kind of occupy the board, maybe get an Unleash and hope things go away. And they must remember to hit the Shaman in the face as much as they can as well.
You absolutely must. It's a weird matchup because, like you say, the the Hunter can go for a very aggressive route should they so desire. The deck, in its inception, was basically just considered an aggro deck. It was a little bit more aggressive back then. It's changed a little bit since then. But with Kill Command, the Animal Companions, Eaglehorn Bows, everything else that can go face, especially Dino Tamer Brand, you can play very aggressively. But I would also argue it's a higher value deck than the Shaman if it can extend through to the late game as well.
Yeah, it's a very strange deck, and that's kind of what comes out with this. I mean, figure pulled straight out of nowhere, but 45% chance against everything figure. Obviously, it's very good against some other decks, but it can be played two ways, but because of that, it kind of suffers in every way.
What to do?
One thing I do find fascinating about the Shaman is how far ahead you have to plan. If you don't draw Hair Evolve, you have to actually really think quite hard about what to do.
Imagine thinking playing Shaman. What are you talking about?
Sorry, yeah, I didn't want to spoil your dreams there.
I am,
That
of course,
fixed the
kidding.
curve nicely.
Yeah, I agree. I think this deck, like you said, if you don't hit the absolute dream, it's really, really hard because the deck has a lot of weird, janky pieces that you don't know how to use together. I guess, ignoring anything else that could come off the top, which is not a good idea, but just to simplify it a little bit, Thunderhead Zap on turn 4 into Develop Stuff on turn 5, Stormbringer on 6 looks to be the plan for ball control at the moment for me.
It does, and it's not necessarily going to be an amazing plan. This is going to be a big board for Hunter by turn 4.
It really is. They've got a very juicy curve.
Just being able to not even worry about the Swampoos because you don't want to have to decide whether to play it and ignore the weapons or not.
Yeah.
And just, okay, let's just make this obvious curve. Going with the Snip Snap because the 1/1s are capable of taking out opposing 1/1s, that's helpful.
Yeah.
When controlling tokens. I know there's like barely a token in the deck, but it's basically a token deck. It's really weird.
That's obviously a nice way to smooth out the curve on this turn, but I think ball control will be a little bit more focused on trying to go for Thunderhead Zap on the following turn, and therefore, yeah, as we see here, we'll just skip over the Sludge Slurper on this turn in favor of a Powerhouse play next turn.
Yeah. And the Zappy is going to be able to do 3 damage if they don't take down this totem, and why would they take that? Well, they have got to decide, they have got to actually think about it.
Yeah, there was...
And this is what I was saying about remembering to go face, and why this is an awkward matchup. Because you can't let the Shaman get out of control, but if you don't hit them in the face, they will eventually beat you anyway.
I think it was probably a good trade into both minions there, because although it's a pretty doom and gloom way to look at it, if you did just go face there, 4 minions on board means that Hair plus Mogu for 0 mana plus Evolve was playable. And even if it's not that exact combination of cards, generally, if you can clear stuff off the board against Shaman, it's a good idea.
Oh, for sure. It's just knowing when to stop doing that. And I'm just highlighting, it's just difficult to know. You ideally sort of kill enough minions and put enough damage into face. And with Bran in hand as well, obviously that's going to help a lot if they can chunk a bit in there.
Yeah.
We'll be very interested to see if they try and control the board by killing everything, and I don't think that works. Or just kill everything whilst you still can, and then launch a frenzy straight at the face.
Frog coming off the top though manages to divert ball control away from what looked like a fairly standard plan of Thunderhead Zap. It makes sense to me because of course now he can go for Thunderhead Zap and either a Voltaic Burst off the top or the Sludge Slurper that he already has in hand. It
This
doesn't curve out
curve-
quite so well with it doesn't curve out quite so well with Stormbringer, but it does allow him
Yeah.
to just go for much more strong board control, which I think is significantly more important.
Yeah, UK are going to be forced to trade into the Hunter here because with Hyena coming down, and then next turn they have a choice, and that's beautiful. You can subject 9 it depending what happens, or Ziliax with the Magnetize for an enormous amount of face damage.
Do we really prefer Hyena Alpha here over just Ooze Hero Power? Like, I get that Ooze
Interesting.
can hit Lick him later on, and it's 1 less health, but that's 2 less damage. That's a big deal when you have Dynatamer Bran in hand.
Very interesting, yeah. What's the
I'm
chance of
pretty
the
sure I
Ooze
would've played it.
surviving, though? Your opponent's just played a Frog. I know it's another minion, but it's a really good zap target.
Excellent point. That is a very good point. Yeah, maybe it's better. Maybe it's better, because they do need board control here if they're going to win the game.
And they kind of know this is coming this turn.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably not Evolve. It's probably just Sludge Slurper.
It's a tough one because it's a defensive evolve if you play it. Because you are obviously you're trading into the 4-1, but you are still facing a lot more damage.
Yeah. I like this ever so slightly more.
Yeah.
Like, the Evolve does draw you a Soul of the Murloc from the deck, which is pretty good, I suppose. But the Soul doesn't really do all that much if you play the Evolve anyway, so this I think is just a bit superior.
And now so many choices, so many decisions.
Yeah.
I don't like to read too much into how long players take to make a turn, especially in this. But with 1 mana left and quite a long pause on the decision, that might just hint the Evolve's in hand. They know it probably is anyway. Oh. You can do 12 to face. I don't think it's right, but you can, and you've got to think about it with Bran in hand. But you're just at the mercy of a huge Evolve if you do that.
It's a really weird position because the Leok also means that you could like not magnetize the Ziliax to equal 1 more attack on board,
Yeah.
and
Good
also
stop.
like hit your targets differently, which allows you to kill the Thunderhead and the Frog here.
I think you have to take that opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you've got a decent board. It's so frustrating, though. You just want to put that damage face. Kill command and Bran in hand. Oh, my goodness.
That is what dreams are made of right there. Wow.
Damn
I mean, it has to
the
be.
impartial commentator.
I'm not saying it's good for me. I'm saying it's good for ball control.
It is very, very good for the United Kingdom team here.
I'm taking burst there.
Yeah, it's a good time to. I mean, there's never a good time to be overloaded, but you might as well be overloaded here. You're not doing a lot next turn in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's just the best card.
You're reasonably safe to overload as well here. To
I think so.
evolve if you want to.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, are you not wanting to play the Lightning Storm on this turn?
Yeah, I think I am, but you don't have to.
Okay, okay. So what, this allows for Voltaic Burst plus Thunderhead on the following turn?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Oh, Order! Order, lol! Look at that, they didn't get a 1-1 off of the Shark Fin.
Well, oops.
That was just... Was that just order lol?
I don't know.
I think
It's
it
too
was, right?
complicated to go back in time.
Yeah,
I think you're
yeah.
right. I think you're right. I'm scared about this. Game. It's so complicated. How distracting is this ooze? You think you have to play it, but you mustn't let it just take over your entire brain. I think this is one of my favourite matchups actually at the moment from both sides.
Very
Now.
At least when it goes this sort of game. Like, you don't want to kill command a 2-2 either. There's so many things you don't want to do. Yeah, just occupy the board.
Like, because Boston's biggest chance of victory is damage through to face, which means
Yeah.
Dino Tamer Brand next turn, kill command hero power turn 8.
And one thing you can contain any deck, but particularly in this situation, contain your opponents by having the bigger board. They have to waste their minions hitting your minions, so they can't evolve them anyway. At some point that will change, and they'll just go Stormbringer lol, but which might be right now.
I think it's a bit too much damage on board to go Stormbringer lol.
It is a lot of damage.
Like 8 damage on board plus the 8 from a potential Dino Tamer is potentially just lethal in a couple of turns, unless you hit some premium legendaries.
You're going to get 4 goes at it though. Like a big taunt or any charge. It's a decent chance. I should know, but I don't, I'll confess. Pretty sure Boar Control knows. That's exactly the sort of things he knows. Okay, Lola is.
Wow. I was not expecting to see this. And I was talking
Or
about
that.
needing to hit premium legendaries. There they are.
Yeah. Which legendary would you like?
Oh.
Alakir is insane.
Filthy. Absolutely filthy. So,
Now you've got a defensive
what?
Bran, which is what you don't want to ever do.
yeesh, that sounds horrible.
Doesn't even do much.
It doesn't do that much, yeah. You could trade everything into the Alakir and then take out the Basina.
And that keeps you alive,
Yeah.
maybe. Oof.
Well, you know what? Fair play to Ball Control here with his play. I was anticipating it to be a little bit too susceptible to damage from the opponent, but I guess if you think about it, actually, the average 4 legendaries you get, it leaves 8 damage on board. Your opponent can go Dino Tamer Bran, smash everything Fate. I think on average there, you just win.
Yeah, you definitely don't die. I think it was only 16 maximum. So even if you don't just win, you don't die very often, even with bad rolls. I mean, I'll die there because I rolled 4 Lawwalker Chose or something, and that's the end of the game. But
Fair enough.
realistically,
It's fine. So Boston here decides to have an 8-3 instead of an 8-6 in exchange for a 3-1. Obviously, it doesn't make a difference if he loses the game. But it was kind of interesting as to how he approached it. It gave him a little bit more damage. But in the end, it does mean Team United Kingdom go up 2 games to 1 and now only have to win with their Combo Priest. A deck that I would feel pretty confident in being able to take a win in these couple of matchups.
yeah, and that's the frustration of playing that Hunter in that particular matchup, where you can feel you're winning, you can feel you can kill them, and then you've got to kill the minions, otherwise you die, and then it's just so difficult to pace. I'd say impossible, which is why it's not favoured at the higher levels. Oddly enough, it's favoured at the lower levels.
What is the Hunter?
The Hunter's favoured down in sort of depths, the rank 25s.
I can definitely see that.
Because the Shaman's
I mean,
quite hard to play, and it doesn't defend itself as well as it should, and the Hunter probably just hits face all the time.
Yeah. Not comparing it to rank 25 at all, but in APAC Grandmasters, we saw a lot of mistakes with the Priest up against the Hunter. That was one of the worst matchups consistently.
And this one can get very interesting. The deadly shot's there. Zephyrus already. The secrets do make a difference. But Dead Draw doesn't care. He's just got a hand that's going to hit you hard.
He really does. And even with a couple of very, very good cards in Boston's hand, like the Deadly Shot, of course, even the Kill Command and the crowning jewel of his hand, the Zephyrus, it's still looking like a pretty decent shot for Dead Draw with the healing up of his minion on the following turn, a nice big play with Inner Fire coming in soon as well.
We did see Australia lose this matchup where they went all in on a big minion and hoped there wasn't a Deadly Shot, and there it was. It didn't even look wrong. It looked probably at least second best and probably correct. Very hard with caster vision to work out exactly. Discussion here about what has Zephyrus ever done for us?
Yeah, well, besides the animal companions, the wild growths, the Brightwings, the Tyrians, what has Zephyrus ever done for us?
What about the Twisting Nethers?
Right. Besides the Twisting Nethers.
3 people will actually understand that reference in the whole of chat. Thank you for picking a reference from my era for once, by the way, Derek. I appreciate it. The softball on the first couple of days.
I mean, I'm looking and trying to find anything other than just playing out the Nephicet here. It just feels like the strongest play to me.
Yeah.
I guess the argument you can buff the health higher this turn and then heal it up even more on the following turns. But I don't know. It just felt like a very strong board development line.
No, I agree. Looks like they're going to try and go wide so that Deadly Shot is mitigated somewhat here.
The other line did that too, though. I guess, you know, if you're trying to get double minion heal with the Nephicet, that's fair enough.
Because how do you kill a 2/7 on turn 3 as a hunter when there's another minion? And then you're playing into Northshire Cleric, Nephicet, or Inner Fire, depending what you're reacting to. Ah, this Zephyrus.
Yeah, I am sensing Zephyrus probably doesn't come down yet. I'm thinking Shadow Word Pain on turn 4 is the most likely outcome for it.
Yeah, they'll be scared that it won't be there. Oh, okay. Hi, this is our hand. Please meet Deadly Shot.
Yeah, that's pretty heads up right there. Or pretty face up, I suppose.
Yeah, you know it's there now. Either that or they're playing to it as an out.
How do you play around that? Just Northshire Cleric heal? Because...
Yeah.
I guess Northshire Cleric Nephicet is maybe better because it's arguably a little bit of a waste of the Nephicet, but he has 2 now, and it's another minion that can be hit with the Deadly Shot instead.
No, you're right, because you don't really want to lose the Northshire either if they Deadly Shot and miss.
Exactly.
So playing Nephicet, give them that 1 in 3 chance of a total whiff.
I think this is smart. This is definitely dead for realizing that it's Deadly Shot as well.
But now they've got the Shadow Word Pain play you were talking about. And your opponent's board, I mean, Priest having a board of anything is always scary, but getting rid of quite a lot of investment into this 2/10 seems reasonable to me. And making a 3/2 that actually challenges the board that's presented to you is quite relevant. Because then your Deadly Shot becomes good next turn.
I'm honestly just not sure because, like, one good Zephyrus can outright win you the game. If you can hit it on turn 7 and get a Brawl, or I don't even know, maybe a Shadow Word Death or a Silence, like that can be game winning. Is Shadow Word Pain good enough?
I think as Sweden would have good turn 6 and 7 anyway with Beasts and Seamats.
Yeah, you're
maybe
probably
control
right,
the immediate problem and waste the Zephyrus, which I do agree is a bit wasteful.
Yeah.
Oh!
Woof! That is not what you want to see. The absolute worst outcome there for Boston, undeniably. And now we're looking at 21. 21 damage off, 1 damage off lethal.
Oh, more. Hang on. Yeah, it's one off lethal. You're right.
25 damage.
That'll work.
So now they've got pretty much a checkmate because they're thinking 1 damage off lethal, even if there's Zephyrus plus Shadow Earth Death, Cleric, like an absolute champion, will just come in for the 1 damage lethal. That's
Nobody
it.
needs healing. I'm just going to hit you for lethal instead.
Oh no, wait, sorry. Frost Nova keeps them alive.
Great. Because there's nothing like avoiding the inevitable.
What to do?
I mean, it does something, right? If it's your only chance, you take it.
I understand why they didn't play the Shimmerfly last turn, because obviously it's going to give the Cleric more cards for healing. I wonder after the whiff, maybe they could have just dropped it because they should know they're in... They can't expect to be in this much trouble, but they know they're in some trouble. Maybe they need the out.
Oh no, okay, yeah, this is much better, sorry. If they get silence here, this was Huffer or Misha gave them the... Oh, sorry, exactly Misha would allow them to survive.
Job's done.
Okay, yeah.
This was their only chance. And it was definitely the best shot of winning. Didn't work out, and that does mean that unfortunately, 4 teams knocked out of the 2019 Hearthstone Global Games after losing to both France in the initial match and then the United Kingdom thereafter. But it's good news for us, good news for Dead Draw, and good news for Ball Control as they are advancing to fight against Spain in our next decider match to find out who's joining France, as we can see here in this beautifully timed graphic, to go on to the second stage of the tournament in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, and that stage will be another groups stage. So these teams are going to have to win a lot of Hearthstone matches if they're going to get to the finals. But stay tuned because that United Kingdom versus Spain decider match will be up in just a moment.